Hello, hello, hello. What is up, people of Earth? My name is Archer, and this is episode 4 of Back to the Mat, a recurring show where I, a former wrestling fan, jumps back into the wrestling bubble after years away. And on a weekly basis, I will be documenting my experience watching Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and every single PLE. So, today, we're going to be breaking down the Elimination Chamber. And honestly, this show gave us a lot of things to bite on. A wild Danhausen debut that had the crowd acting personally offended, a clear picture into what to expect this WrestleMania season and how it's shaping itself up to be. The masked man is finally revealed to be Seth Rollins, obviously. And, you know, I'm hoping this masked man, you know, appearances are finally over. I really do. This has to be it, right? This has to be it. No more Masked Man moving forward. I'm done. We're done, right? And so I'll be giving you my straight up returning fan reactions into all of this, everything that happened in Elimination Chamber, what worked, what didn't, what actually made me want to get excited for Monday Night Raw. And trust me, the Danhausen reaction is the part I need to talk about. But first, let's see what's on the menu for today. All right, let's set the table for what's going to happen tonight. So, we're going to do my Elimination Chamber results. Let's see how I did. I wasn't expecting much, but I actually did pretty good. I'll pat myself on the back. The first week coming back, yeah, we'll get all into it. We'll do the Women's Elimination Chamber review, the two title fights. I'm just going to bundle those together. No need to get super deep into it. The Danhausen debut, I have a lot to talk about on that one, as well as the men's elimination chamber and Seth Rollins returning, revealing himself to be the masked man. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get into it. But let's first see how the predictions went. So it turns out I didn't do that bad. 3 out of 5. I'll take it. And I'm being fully transparent here. I'm marking the crate thing as incorrect. Obviously that couldn't have possibly been the right answer. I kind of hinted at Danhausen in the last episode, but that's after some things I heard online, so I'm not gonna count that. I got Randy, I got Ripley, I got Punk. I was horribly wrong about Becky Lynch, right? So honest score, 3 out of 5. Let's move on to the women's elimination chamber. All right, as predicted, Rhea Ripley wins the elimination chamber, and she's headed towards Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. And honestly, I'm excited. After seeing Rhea lose the tag titles, it feels like they're shifting her into this WrestleMania mode for this singles win at the championship. Not sure she'll win at WrestleMania. I think so. We'll kind of dive into that as the weeks go on. But yeah, I said it on the SmackDown's episode. I wasn't really into the whole tag team run, so this is kind of a really good change of pace. I feel like it was very inevitable, but we got here, right? And here's the thing: I didn't go into this elimination chamber, this women's elimination chamber match, expecting to be like truly locked in, but I actually did have a lot of fun. So instead of doing a play-by-play of the whole thing, I'm gonna break it down superstar by superstar and let you know how I feel about each one of them uh, as a unit, or I should say as an individual. So let's go down the line. First, we got Kiana James. So starting the match with Kiana James and Tiffany Stratton, I think was a great move because Kiana wasn't the favorite going into this. No one really, she wasn't supposed to have this like breakout performance or anything, and I'm not saying that she did. So but putting her in early really gave her the most valuable thing, I would say, which is time, right? And I feel like she used it pretty well. The moment Asuka's pod opened up, Kiana immediately attacked her, and that's the kind of heel instinct I like, right? Like Asuka had one way in and one way out, and the moment that pod door opened, boom, she spears her, you know. And that was a great move. That was a great play. She had a lot of activity in the match. She had a lot of time to get through to everything and go to everyone. It was kind of it was really good. It was good for her, right? She even catapulted Tiffany into the pod, and I'm like, okay, all right, they're not just using her as another body in the cage, right? Hey, use Kiana, just throw her around, she'll take the bumps, this and that. They're actually giving her some meaningful moments. Maybe nothing too huge, but little increments as the as she was competing. I feel like it made a really big difference, and even her elimination protected her. I would say, you know, Raquel launched her into the pod. The pod breaks. Then Asuka gets slammed onto her for the double pin, and that doesn't make Kiana like look weak. It makes it feel like she got worn down as time went on, and a person can only take so much, you know. And she didn't even get pinned. It was Asuka who got pinned. So I would say, that's good. That the way it played out, it was very good. You know, she wasn't marked to win, but she looked like she belonged. And for her position in the match, this was wonderful. This was great. All right, now moving on to Asuka. All right, so Asuka's role felt more like a veteran trying to keep things together, right? She's kind of the pace setter. She's also the glue. She's the person who keeps the match moving and helps everything feel crisp, right? And in the chamber full of new faces and rising stars, the balance kind of matters, right? The old guard versus the new guard. Um, and so Asuka she had great moments in the match, but it wasn't making you feel like she was taking over, like, oh, her win is coming. Her win is right there. It kind of had its place. And the mist and Alexa Bliss, that's not just a cool visual. I think that's a really good storyline seed, right? Like now Alexa has a reason to target Asuka, and Asuka has a reason to keep Alexa in her orbit, right? It gives them both something to do after the chamber, and I like it. Kind of they're setting it up within. This was great. And now we move on to Alexa Bliss. And I don't have a ton of notes for Alexa, and I don't mean that like negatively or anything like that. She just she didn't need to take like the most damage. I'm not saying she took a lot of damage, but I'm saying, her job here, in my eyes, was to have like a moment, and she got it. She got the Twisted Bliss off the top of the pod, and that's like a nice highlight clip that people will remember. Um, and if you pair that with the mist, now she has direction. So she had bits and pieces, not a lot, and then the big moment, and it really is how things ended for her, right? The mist in the face, and that caused her to get eliminated. That's it, nothing else. And now we head to Raquel Rodriguez. So Raquel looked great. She was the powerhouse, and she had the big like monster, not monster like that, like like she had the big moments, right? The double elimination. She manhandled Rhea. She used the chamber, like the chains, to hook Rhea onto the chamber. A lot of, God, I hate saying like big moments, but like she had those moments. She had like pretty memorable. I would say she had a lot of activity for a person who came out last from the pod. This was great for her. She had a lot to do within the match, and none of it really uh, And none of it takes away from her losing, right? Because her losing didn't feel like a waste. This was a great way for her to showcase her talents, even though she was the last one out of the pod. She made it meaningful for as long as it lasted, and it was pretty fun. It was pretty great. And if she won, I wouldn't have had a problem. I would have been like, okay, fine, something new, something different. But feels like they're all kind of gearing towards Rhea Ripley at this moment. So not bad. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And last but not least, well, actually no, not last, but next, Tiffany Stratton. Oh my goodness, Tiffany Stratton took an absolute beating. And I say that as a compliment. Sometimes with the pretty star presentation, you know, and I say pretty star presentation because last year WrestleMania she came out as Barbie. So, for those of you just when I say pretty star, that's kind of like what I mean, right? Uh, but yeah, for the pretty star presentation, right? You kind of need to show that you can sort of suffer and keep fighting a little bit sometimes, especially when you have that connotation, I would say, attached to you, right? That's the difference between, oh, she looks like a star and she is a star. And I'm not saying she isn't. She's held the championship before. But I think even after losing, you kind of have to solidify those things a few more times and to really put that into people's minds. At least that's kind of how I look at it sometimes. Like sometimes, people lose their title, they kind of get lost or they kind of get forgotten. So this match, her taking a beating, starting off the match with Kiana James um, was really good for her character, right? She ate the pod, she did the backflip, boom, crashed right into it. She got catapulted by Kiana James. She got slammed around into it. She got busted open, bloody. A lot of things happened for her. And being the final pin to Rhea, you know, nothing wrong with losing to the contender fighting for the championship. Nothing wrong at all. So, in the end, you know, she did pretty well. I feel like everyone that was in the women's elimination chamber had a role, had a purpose, had meaningful things happen to progress their story, their character, so on and so forth. And so it didn't feel like anyone was sort of just there to be there or lost. Everyone had a purpose. Everyone had a purpose, and in the end, the winner is Rhea Ripley. And the win felt inevitable, right? It felt like the story was pointing in that direction, and the match delivered. So now this sets up Rhea versus Jade, and I'm here for it. Not so much to say here. Let's see how this goes. Let's see how this plans out. Let's see what the WWE has in mind for the next few weeks as this progresses. But overall, this match surprised me. I didn't expect a lot, and this in for me kind of over delivered because I my expectation was like, all right, let's just see Rhea win and move on. Surprisingly, very fun. So bravo. The two title fights. Look, I'm gonna bundle these up because the vibe basically feels the same. It feels like it was designed to set up a way to sell more tickets at WrestleMania. Ticket sales are low, and so you bring a little nostalgia back. Husband and wife, both champs, heading into Mania, right? A lot can happen between then and now. I doubt that the titles are gonna change in either direction, right? So let's start off with the Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee. I picked Becky mostly because I liked her promo work, man. I picked with my heart in this one rather than what was I wouldn't say inevitable. What I thought they would go with. I basically picked with my heart. So I was kind of rooting for her. And I'll be honest, the AJ Lee comeback, the AJ Lee comeback story doesn't automatically hit for me. I also understand the business logic. Nostalgia is a great way to pull in some old fans, some old viewers. People that grew up watching her can now see her as champion heading into Mania, defending her champion. So I can see that, but the mat look is not really for me. I don't really care that she's back. This is not a knock on her. It's just I'd rather see someone else, have their Mania moment and progress their character, their gimmick, their career forward rather than winding the clock back. That's me. That's what I would like. Happy for her? All right. The match itself was fun. It was good. It was solid. Um, just not a match I'm gonna be rewatching. You know, that's that's kind of it. Like Becky tapping out should make things a little more interesting. You know, it's clear as day she tapped. You know, so I expect her to use that. To be honest, I don't even know. To make a case for her to fight for the championship at WrestleMania when she tapped out, they're gonna give it to her, but it's like weird. I feel like it should have been something else. She gets. I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, going into Mania with this. Uh, and then the CM Punk versus Finn Balor. I had a lot of fun matching this. A lot of good spots. I did think the Judgment Day was gonna come out. They didn't, which is good. He lost clean in a good competitive fight. I loved the entrance, by the way. The Chicago Bulls style entrance. Very nice touch. You know, my only thing is, like, and I'm really nitpicking here. With Finn Balor, I'm surprised we didn't see the Demon King. I'm not entirely sure how many championships he's going to fight for again. Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Finn Balor mean Demon King? I feel like he has to utilize that a lot more. That was like his whole gimmick in NXT and then for a while on the main roster. And he kind of just scrapped it off to the side. And I thought, man, that would be a great way to bring it back in. The Demon King fighting for the title. I know there was no real setup. Like, he never didn't say, like, oh, the demon, bring out the demon in me or whatever. But I'm like, it's kind of like the small things. And I know he kind of moans about it. Oh, it takes 3 hours long. But I'm like, dude, you could sell a lot of, like, for business wise, you could sell a lot of merch. You could sell a lot of, like, you got Finn Balor bobbleheads and stuff. Then you got the Demon King, but you got Finn merch, the Balor Club merch, and then you get the Demon King merch. I feel like there's a lot of stuff he could do with that. And if he doesn't like doing the 3 hour makeup or the paint, it's totally fine. But I feel like that's a really big part of his persona. Like, I mean, he did it to himself. He kind of like did that was what he presented to us. We loved it, and then he stopped doing it, and now I'm like, all right, he's just a guy now. He's kind of a guy. He's got some cool move sets. He's got some cool stuff, but he's like missing that thing, right? He's that thing. What is that thing? And I'm not saying he has to bring it back, but it's been 10 years, not 10 years of him. Look, I don't even know when the last time he put the makeup or the thing on. I doubt that it's honestly. Here's the thing. I didn't want to research it, but I sincerely doubt that it's been recent. I think it's been a long time. That's what I'll say about that. That's my guess. It's been a long time, and this would have been perfect. This would have put a little bit of suspicion into the match because the moment he just came out regular, I was like, all right, This is not his day. This is not his day. Chicago Bulls theme. Like if he came out Demon King, and Punk came out with the Chicago Bulls like that entrance music and everything, I would be I wonder who's gonna win. Put a little doubt in my mind. So yeah, that's pretty much on it. In terms of title fights. On to the Danhausen debut. Can't wait to talk about this. And here it is, the Danhausen debut. Okay, so I have a real question, a serious question. What crime did this man commit? Like, because the reaction in the arena and online is people are ready to hate this dude, and they did. In the arena, consistent boos, and I go online, just consistent hate. I'm like, Jesus Christ. There's a few people here and there who kind of like what they saw, but the majority is like a flood of just boo, he sucks. This is like just awful. And I'm like, because look, here's what it looks like to me, right? People wanted Chris Jericho. They didn't get Chris Jericho. So they booed the guy who showed up, right? And look, this is a very human reaction. They didn't get what they want, but it's also kind of unfair, right? Because I'm not entirely sure if people like if people knew about Jericho's situation, right? Like if Jericho can't show up because of contractual reasons and the internet's been guessing Danhausen for weeks, why are we mad? Or why are they mad when the guess is finally right? I'm like, guys, you said it was gonna be Danhausen. I found out like I think a day or 2 days before SmackDown or something like that. I can't remember, but I found out like beforehand, and I was like, oh, okay. Apparently, people have been knowing this for weeks now, for the past week. So why are you mad when you finally get it right? It's one of those weird things. I'm like, ding, 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 you know. Also, this whole crate storyline has been silly from the start. So when the payoff is silly, this vampire-looking dude coming out of the coffin, the clown car, dude, there were. This was like, do you see what happened? What was it like? 9 people came out of this coffin. It's basically like the clown car, right? The clown, like 8 clowns coming out of the car. They're all just stuffed into one. I'm not shocked. That's silly. That's goofy. That's like a cartoony thing, right? That's the tone that they set, and that's the tone you get, right? And so I'm not shocked by it. They leaned into it. They leaned into the silliness. They leaned into the goofiness. They leaned into this cartoony thing. So don't be shocked when, 8 hot ladies come out and one dude named Danhausen shows up. All right. Yeah. Like, and look, I know that in the first episode, I said, don't insult my intelligence. I said that. Those were my words verbatim. I said, do not insult my intelligence. I'm coming back, but do not insult my intelligence. Right. But I also remember what wrestling is, right? Here's the thing. You suspend your disbelief for entertainment. This is a world where like the supernatural characters exist. The Undertakers, the Kanes, the Bray Wyatts of the world, right? We accept it because that's the deal. Not everything has to make logical sense, right? Like there's a gray area that you can play around with. And let's not forget, look, Mae Young, she gave birth to a hand. Okay? There's a wrestler called the Boogeyman who eats worms. And then we have characters like Eugene, and I know like, oh, this is from like a long ago. I'm like, guys, the Undertaker's from a long ago, and he did not he didn't retire like yesterday. He people are still accepting of it. They just have to kind of get warmed up and used to these unusual, weird things that are happening, you know? And pro wrestling is the only place where this kind of works, right? You can't really do this in boxing. You just kind of get laughed at. You can't do this in MMA. It's just absurd, right? But here, it's allowed. And honestly, I'm interested because modern WWE, not wrestling, modern WWE has pulled back the curtain with providing us with more information, right? With WWE Unreal giving us an inside look into the writer's room. Like, how many people actually thought they were ever going to see clips like that? How many people actually thought, "Oh my God, I'm getting to see how matches are planned," and now you get this idea, this visualization. If they're pulling back the curtain on all these different things, right? And and sometimes knowing too much can be a little dangerous because it kind of it's I think it stops like blurring the lines between what's real and what's not. And when that happens, right, when you get too much of this information overload, and they provide you with, you know, they provide you with too much without really preparing you for it, right? It's not like micro kind of doses. They kind of just threw out like, hey, here's how we did the John Cena thing. Hey, here's the whole Seth Rollins knee injury. We're telling you how far back we planned it, who's involved, who's not involved. Um, you know, we got the wife and on. Well, obviously you gotta tell Becky, but they literally feed you the whole thing, and so it makes it harder to create a character that truly feels distant. It's hard to do an Undertaker type of gimmick in today's world, knowing what we know and how the machine works, right? So when someone shows up who feels like an actual gimmick again, even if it's like cartoony, a part of me is like, okay, this is different. I don't fully know his gimmick yet, to be honest. Um, like, like I want to go completely blind with it. The only thing I know is that he's very evil and very nice, and he doesn't curse. So not a lot. Uh, I'll. So my take is this: give it some time. If it stinks, you know, we can trash it when the time comes. But booing the guy because he's not the guy you fantasy booked in your head, that's kind of unfair. That's kind of like it's unfair to him. It's one thing to get it from like the crowd because most of them probably were like expecting Jericho, and then when they didn't get it, they're like, oh, it's just immediate kind of reaction. But to get it online as well, oh Jesus. But look, how do I put this? Uh, what were you really expecting? 2 weeks? Like, it's silly. They leaned into it, and now we're getting something different. I feel, you know, he got the vanish. Can I say that? Like, how many? Like, this is gonna. I'm getting way too into this now. How many people in WWE actually get to do the vanishing thing? Like, you got the Undertakers, you got the Bray Wyatts, these like supernatural characters that just vanish. Like, I truly don't know what this guy's gimmick is. I don't know if he has like some supernatural thing to him or whether he's like R-Truth with face paint. I don't know. But they made him disappear. Like if Seth Rollins doesn't like you've seen wrestlers appear like from underneath the ring, but you don't see them like appear and then disappear. They usually when disappearing acts happen, they have something supernatural about them. Something is like a mystique about these guys. And once I saw him disappear, I was like, huh, all right, something different. It's not real, obviously, I mean, it's silly, but this is the direction that they're taking it. So, the guy hasn't even done a promo yet. He hasn't even wrestled yet, and he's already getting booed. He does have a good entrance, Danhausen. Kind of reminds me of the Kid Wilson. So he's kind of got that going for him. And look, I know the next thing people are gonna say is like, hmm, I know that people are gonna say the crate is goofy, the crate is weird. Why didn't they just do it backstage? And you know what? That's fair. That's fair. That's fine. I get it. I get it. And that honestly, sure, why not? Why they chose to just have him walk out, put him in the ring, I don't know. You, I don't know. But it's not the worst thing in the world. And I'm here for it, man. Like maybe they have something cool planned for this guy and they just kind of want to roll out the carpet. Set it up for 2 weeks. You guys figured it out. It was Danhausen the whole time. Wait, you don't like Danhausen? Because it's too weird? It's in the box? Alright. Whatever it is, I'm here for it, man. Like, let's see how this plays out. AEW underutilized him. He asked for his release. He comes here. And the first impression is immediate boos. Like, imagine, like, you quit your job because you didn't like how it was going there. So you move to this new job, and then you just, oh my god, cut him some slack. Give him a break. Give him some time. Let's see how this goes. If it sucks in the end, go for it. But I don't even know what he sounds like, and I refuse to watch the interviews and kind of fill my head with stuff that's already out there. I just want to enjoy it with a fresh mind. All right, let's get into the Elimination Chamber and this masked man, whatever you want to call it. Let's just close the book on that, huh? Let's get into it. All right. So the men's Elimination Chamber and the big reveal of who the masked man is. Ding, ding, ding. It's Seth Rollins. There's so much here to talk about. Um, there's too much, really. And I'm not gonna do a performer by performer breakdown like I did with the women's match. So I'm just gonna go kind of like the big picture here, right? The headline. Seth Rollins is back, and he's the masked man. Who could have known, right? But yes, it's finally over. And now I don't. The thing is he back? Or is he just showing up to close the book on this masked man storyline and then disappear until he's 100% healthy? That's the question because I don't know. I thought his injury was supposed to be out for a while. Is this I'm back for good or I'm back to just cut off this masked man thing? Because maybe they're like just do it and get it over with because too many masked men, too many things, you know. So either way, I'm kind of glad they're putting it to bed. By the way, I did find out that the masked dude on SmackDown is actually a student from Seth Rollins' wrestling school. So that was a nice touch there. I don't know how they're gonna weave that into the whole story, but I don't even think they should mention it. I think you just move forward at this point. But glad this is over. It has to be. If we get more masked men, I'm gonna lose it. I'm like, dude, is there no other ideas backstage? All right. Now let's talk about this. Elimination Chamber, right? Logan Paul. He got in the chamber. He's enough injuries had to happen for this guy to get in. And you know what? He got 3 eliminations. And I'm okay with it. Because, it's it serves a purpose, right? he needed something to do in that match. It wasn't supposed to be him, but he needed to last long enough for that reveal to matter. He needed to do something in there. He needed to last as long as he could till the real masked man Seth Rollins popped up and curb stomped him out. Cool. And the thing is, if you have Logan Paul in there and he's doing nothing, it really hurts him, right? Think of the character wise, right? It affects not just Logan, but it affects the Vision's image as well. Especially when you have a name like Paul Heyman attached to him. Look at all the names that Paul Heyman associates himself with. I don't want to say like he does, like just look at Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, up until recently with Seth Rollins. These are very high profile guys that matter, and he really puts a lot of effort into it. And so if you have Logan Paul in there and he's just like dancing around or whatever, it's very meaningless. So he had to get the 3 eliminations, right? It needed to feel like something important. So even though those 3 eliminations are a little bit of an asterisk, he kind of stole a pin there. It's good heelish behavior, right? He gets to go on Raw and he gets to say, "Oh, I got 3 eliminations. I did the most in this match. I was on my way to winning, and then the Seth Rollins popped up and ruined my chances at the title and my WrestleMania moment to capture gold." Right? Like he has a lot of good data to go off of because of those 3 eliminations. So it wasn't like he just showed up for work and clocked in and clocked out. He actually did something that day, right? So he did have a rough moment there with Javon Evans. That botch, what the, oof, that looked bad. But you know, other than that, it was a good. Oh, and the Paul Heyman reaction to the whole thing was great. That was great. I wonder how long he's been like practicing that one, because he really screamed it out there, man. The facial reactions, the voice, the thing. Wow, it was great. That's what I'm talking about. That's why the 3 eliminations had to mean something. It had to matter. It had to go somewhere, right? So now we get to Cody and Randy. Randy Orton. I can't believe it. I guessed it. Old reliable. I said. Old reliable Randy Orton. RKO's Cody for the 1, 2, 3, and he's going to WrestleMania. And look, I picked Randy because I look at like WWE history and it basically says when in doubt, give it to Randy. I feel like sometimes when there's uncertainty within things, like, oh, how do fans feel about this and that, they kind of just give it to Randy and they know, like, fans, they love him and he puts on a great performance. And so giving it to him isn't like they're settling. They're just like, he'll do a good job with it, right? And he doesn't really let you down. He kind of makes it tough to get there, jeez. But he performs and he delivers. So Nick Aldis said it on SmackDown. Drew McIntyre, because of this whole, run-in fiasco or, yeah, run-in. I forgot the word. Yeah, he's gonna be Drew McIntyre is gonna be defending that title against Cody Rhodes. So that should make things interesting on the road to WrestleMania, right? Because depending on what happens, we could get Cody versus Randy. We could get a triple threat if Drew somehow slides himself in there. Or we could get a fatal four-way with Jacob Fatu involved as well because Drew he just had to hit Jacob in the head, didn't he? He just had to. He just had to get involved. And look, my honest, take on this is I don't fully know how I feel about Cody as long term. champ yet. Like I I'm not that deep enough into the story to have this emotional attachment to him. But what I do know, I don't know. Do fans really love Cody? I think they're getting sour on him from what I'm seeing, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not like here for it. But I need something. That's the thing, right? I don't know what it is, but what I do know is that WrestleMania, because it feels like everything is just going. He's somehow going to be there at WrestleMania. Something impactful needs to end. Something impactful needs to happen. Sorry, right? A turn, a betrayal, some new layer into the story. A happy ending is great, but an impactful ending is something that people are going to remember. So this week on SmackDown, I'm watching closely because whatever happens, it's really going to shift the momentum heading into WrestleMania. We could see a Cody heel turn. We could see like a fatal four-way. We could see a triple threat. I have no idea. It makes it so much interesting. And walking out of Elimination Chamber, I feel like a lot of things have happened. A lot of moving parts are here. And the road to WrestleMania is starting to get a lot more clearer. And this is good. This is good story wise, character wise. Everything is sort of coming together for all these different WrestleMania moments. Some of them are, you know, done for business purposes, but I feel uh, I'm confident on the payoff. And I'm more excited about that. And I'm excited about the payoff. Yeah. As I'll keep rambling on if I honestly go, but yeah, let's see where SmackDown takes us. So that was Elimination Chamber through the eyes of someone coming back to watching wrestling after years away. Those were my thoughts. Those were my predictions. 3 out of 5. Not bad. I'm surprised. But then again, yeah, maybe it was writing was on the wall, Archer. It was clearly going to be Rhea and Orton. I, I don't know. But yeah, look, up next is the Monday Night Raw. Raw after Chamber. I'll do a Raw recap, and then we'll start building the runway to WrestleMania, right? And we'll get a much more clear picture. The Cody SmackDown episode should answer a lot more questions. Danhausen debut is hopefully on Raw. I can't wait for that. It's everyone hated him. I am here for something different, and he is something different. What it turns out to be, I don't have a goddamn clue, but I am so here for it. I'm so ready to be shocked, amazed, surprised. If disappointed is what it turns out to be in the end, then so be it. But I'm gonna enjoy it. So please drop a comment if I know I forgot to do the shout out. I just realized that. So I'm gonna do that next time on the next episode. If we get something, really good or whatever, and fuck it, I'll just put it up there. Doesn't matter. But yeah, leave a comment. Please subscribe. Turn on the notification so you know exactly when the video comes out. Be sure to like. And what else? Like what does the algorithm love? I don't I don't know. Share. You can share this video. Share with your grandma. If she I don't even know if your grandma watches wrestling, but if she doesn't, show this video. I'm a lapsed fan. She could be a new fan. I don't know. Send it to your mom. Send it to your dad. Send it to your friend that you haven't talked to in years. Just spread this video around. I don't know. This is Back to the Mat, episode 4. Tune in tomorrow. I'm doing a Raw recap, and I'll see you on the next one. Adios.